the more I watch Mitch Trubisky from North Carolina, Aaron, I like this kid. Is he going to be a good pro?
Well, he certainly has all the skill sets that have scouts thinking that he may be. He had a pretty good year last year, but I think really this year he's kind of elevated and emerged as somebody that I think has piqued really the interest of the scouts. And when you look at the decision-making, the arm strength, the accuracy, his command of the offense, leadership qualities, all of those things are things that lend themselves to play well on the next level. I mean, we've seen Trevor Siemian from Northwestern come in and, have some success after a pretty good and solid but not a great career. So sometimes the skill sets necessary to transition from college where it's hurry up, no huddle, spread tempo concepts where the reads are pretty quick and you're not under center don't necessarily 100% translate to the NFL level, but we have seen a ton of examples of that. I didn't get a chance to see that game last night, but watching the tape earlier on in the year and behind that offensive line, I agree with you, man. I think Mitch Trubisky certainly has shown enough to warrant a look. How high of a look, whether that's 7th round, 6th round, 5th, 4th, 3rd.
Oh, he's going a lot higher than that. Nah, he might slip into the first round.
Well, I think he has a little bit more to prove there. He'll have some chances in the offseason in those games. But to your point, I like him as well. A lot of people like him, but the jury is still quite out yet in whether or not he's going to be among the first 2 or 3 quarterbacks taken.
Okay.
Aaron, it's interesting you bring that up because you talk about a guy like Dak Prescott, who coming into the league last year out of Mississippi State, I'm sure you saw him a lot. He's not going to be a great NFL quarterback, but yet here he is. Maybe it's often finding the right system for a lot of these young kids as they make it to the next level.
Man, that's spot on. Football's a game of X's and O's, but it's also Jimmys and Joes. So making sure you put the right guys in the right environments and the opportunities have a big determining factor and play a huge role in whether or not they're successful. Look at the situation that Dak ran into. I mean, arguably the NFL's best offensive line. He's got a running back about to break the rookie record for that franchise, and we know the running backs that they've had go through there. So he's not asked to do a whole lot. So he has a tremendous supporting cast all around him. So you couple that with his size, his frame, his decision-making, his approach to the game, his leadership skills, and he's done a remarkable job. If you put Dak Prescott on another team or put another quarterback in that situation, I don't think it could look any better for a rookie quarterback to come in and step in to the situation that Dak did. But you have to give him a lot of credit for the way he approached the game, and he has earned that job. And I think if Dallas makes a change, they are fools, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And right now the Dallas Cowboys are humming, and a big reason why is because of the former Mississippi State quarterback.
Yeah, we've been saying the same thing. Talking to Aaron Taylor with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio. Aaron, lead college football analyst, of course, for CBS Sports Network. We have a nice doubleheader tomorrow. We've got South Carolina and Florida at noon. Aaron's in the booth for that with Brad, right? Brad Nessler.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how is let's face it, new kid on the block. How's Brad fitting in? You having fun with him?
Yeah, I carried him a little bit last week. He was nervous at being his first game and all like that.
Yeah.
He had a good laugh about that last night. I mean, I don't know if there's a more experienced and talented play-by-play guy than Brad Nessler. And more than that, what I've enjoyed most of anything is that we have fun, man. He's a good dude. I didn't really get a chance to know him prior to us working together last week, but we spent 3 or 4 days together. And then during the broadcast, it was so natural. It literally was like sitting on my couch or at a sports bar watching the game, talking ball with a buddy, and his ability to kind of lace his words and weave in information in everything he says, from a coach's meeting, from research, from tape we talked about, from he and I's conversations to and from wherever. It is impressive, man. He's a super talented cat.
Yeah, I've always been a fan. I wanted to ask you something about this. Tiki and I had this discussion without necessarily inserting politics into it, but Nick Saban the other day at his press conference told the world, and again, we probably think that he was saying this to just avoid, having to talk about anything other than football. But he did say, Aaron, that he didn't even know it was Election Day, and he has not circled back to that yet to offer a little context as to why he said that or misspoke. And listen, I know his job is to win games and make money for Alabama, but he's also at his core an educator. And that was, to me, a painful lack of awareness and a poor role model for an institution that still is about putting out, fertile minds and developing young kids. I thought that was a really bad look for Nick Saban, and quite frankly, I thought he should really apologize for it. If that happened at Notre Dame, where you went, or just general thoughts, did that bother you the way it bothered us?
I don't know if it bothered me because I've lived in that world and I understand it, that you got to understand during the football season, nothing else does matter. You are
Really?
singularly focused, and you have to and you have to be able to quiet the outside noise, and Nick Saban's done that better than anybody. Now, the timing of it and the core content of the subject matter of what he spoke about, I think, fell a little tone deaf on the ears of a country who were arguably not very happy with the way that things went. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that. Personally, I understand that. His attention to detail and his process is what has made him, in my opinion, the best college football coach that's ever existed. But his job is to coach and win football games. Missed opportunity, yes. Offensive, and should he be damned or indicted for that? Not really, but my guess is next time we have an election in the next 4 years, maybe his team will be encouraged to get out there and vote, and he'll have a little different take.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. But you talk about Saban, and you obviously bring up the Alabama Crimson Tide, who are sitting at number one. It's kind of compelling when you look at the top four right now as the college football playoff rankings with Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, and Washington, going from the backwards forward. Chris Peterson, Harbaugh, and Dabo, and obviously Saban. I mean, you got the best coaches that are leading the best teams. It's no accident that these guys are going to be competing for the championship. And you wonder if some of these other programs, guys moving around, the Kirby Smarts, the Mark Riggs, if they actually have a chance to pull their programs there as well. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, and it's interesting. There's some commonalities between the national champions when you go back all the way to the start of the BCS era in 1998, and that's that it takes defenses to win. When you look at the average defensive ranking for total defense of those teams, it's 11. If you back out the one outlier, which was Auburn in 2010, it drops down to a top 10 defense where the average ranking is 8. The more the football changes, the more it stays the same. You have to, A, be able to play good defense and stop the run. B, you have to be able to run the ball and finish games. When you look at the teams at the top of the college football playoff and historically who have had what it takes to go on, they are teams that block well. There are teams that tackle well. There are teams that stop the run and are able to find a running game where they have that physicality. That is the key element. Going fast and hurry-up, no-huddle spread. I think the hurry-up, no-huddle spread is dead for teams that are serious about competing for the national championship because of the way it requires you to practice often, not always, but often requires you to eliminate the physicality of it where you're not doing 9-on-7 inside run drill. So when we look back at history and when we look at what's starting to emerge this year, my belief is that will hold up. The team that will win the national championship this year is the one that's going to play best defense, is able to stop the run and can run the football offensively. And that's why, in my opinion, Alabama is very deserving of that number one spot. And I think they hold it there all the way through.
That's a great point. Listen, I know you got to run, but I want to throw this by you because we focus so much on the top 4, 5, 6 teams, understandably so, but a team that has forced its way back into the conversation after a very sad, dark chapter in their proud history, Penn State. I know they're not going to win anything in terms of a championship this year, but is their recruiting back to a point where there's a level of sustainability and the Nittany Lions are going to be very good for a while? Do you sense that again?
I sense that the trend has certainly reversed. I mean, Penn State, you got to understand all the off-the-field distractions, the limitations on scholarships, and all very deserved and warranted. With that said, I think Coach Franklin has done a nice job. That victory over Penn State or over Ohio State, you can't understate how significant that is because that was his key marquee win that does more than just get you a W. It creates the buy-in where he can look to the players and said, see,
Yep.
I told you, you do it our way, it's going to work. At that moment going forward, Coach Franklin could have told those guys to do anything, and they're going to follow him like the Pied Piper. So my guess is, they're already starting to see some bump in recruiting and some improvements there, which means that the Big Ten East is going to be all the more interesting as we get down the future. But Penn State, I think it's a little premature to call them back, but they're certainly on their way headed in that direction.